my name is Natalia, and today we're going to talk about tanneries in Fez, Morocco. Here are the objectives. We'll review the significance of tanneries in the city, and also understand the health and environmental impact of the tanning process. Here's a table of contents. We will begin by looking at the background information, followed by a timeline of events, then look at the health and environmental impact presented by studies conducted, and then we will finish with a summary. Background information. So Morocco is not only globally known for its leather products, but also for its tanneries, or the sites where the leather is created itself. There are three in the city of Fez, the most popular one being the Chawara Tannery, then the Sidi Moussa Tannery, and then the Ain Aslitan Tannery. And so this industry is incredibly important to Fez and Morocco as a whole because tanneries have been present since the foundation of the city. The oldest tannery in the world is the Chawara Tannery, estimated to be almost 1,000 years old. And so tanneries are deeply embedded in their history and traditions, particularly in Fez. As a result, it has become an economically essential industry. These tanneries employ men in that community, with the Chawara Tannery providing over 200 jobs. But most importantly, because of the historical importance, these old tanneries are vital to the tourism industry. Their functions are mainly to demonstrate traditional methods and produce leather goods for the tourist. And so looking at the timeline, we see that shortly after the city of Fez was founded in the 9th century, the Chawara Tannery and Sidi Moussa Tannery were established in the 11th century. The Ain Aslitan Tannery followed in the 1700s, and it is important to note that the main and only change that has occurred to these three tanneries in Fez since the medieval ages was in 1800s, when chromium was added to the tanning process. After 200 years of using chromium, a Moroccan architect named Aziza Chowni launched the Fez River Rehabilitation Program in an attempt to improve the urban environment and control the amount of pollution it was receiving from these tanneries. The tanning process were supposed to be relocated to a safer and more manageable location while the buildings themselves were remodeled and repurposed. However, there was public outcry and the tanneries were renovated, but they maintained the same tanning methods. It is important to know that all 55 tanneries outside of Fez have been modernized and have filtering systems that pollute less and overall have a higher safety standard. So the issue is that these three tanneries in Fez are exposed to a mixture, or the workers are exposed to a mixture of cow urine, pigeon feces, quicklime, salt, and chromium to loosen and dye the hides. Submerging themselves in these vats and kneading with their bare feet for hours every day. And this leaves workers susceptible to gastrointestinal, respiratory, and skin conditions from these chemicals and biological elements entering the body. And it is important to say that because of the working environment of the tanning industry, workers being submerged in the water, the high humidity, the elevated temperature, animal waste, and the raw skin containing macromolecules enabling rapid microbial growth. And so urinary tract infections are common among tannery workers, as shown by recent studies. Looking at the urinary symptoms, workers had a higher prevalence, particularly painful urination or dysuria and urinary frequency. Only nocturia was found to be higher in the control group. Another problem is that chromium is a known carcinogen as its form chromium-6, which the reaction occurs during the tanning process and the workers are exposed to. So we see that the standardized mortality ratio for the most common types of cancers among Moroccan men increases if they continue to be employed and exposed to chromium. And when we look at the cancer incidence among Moroccan men, we see lung, prostate, colorectal, bladder, and lymphoma as the 5 most common types. And they're quite prevalent, which brings the concern that not just the tanning workers are exposed to chromium. And this is because every month the dyes need to be refreshed, so the chemically and biologically hazardous solutions from the vats are dumped into the Fez River, which is connected to the Seba River and stream Mares. Studies have shown severe pollution, especially with chromium as shown here, and ammonia and some metals. And so tanning effluents directly poured into the environment modify or change the physiochemical properties of water used for drinking and the soil used for agriculture. And then pollution has also continued to destroy the surrounding aquatic ecosystems, and this bar graph compares the wastewater of chromium-based tanning with traditional vegetable tanning on aquatic life, in this case sea urchin sperm, we can see that the developmental defects are much more prevalent using the CTE. And it is important to note that the CTE is inhibiting fertilization after sperm exposure to 2% CTE. And so to summarize the situation of tanneries in Fes, Morocco, the tanning industry is an important part of Morocco culture and economy, mainly because of tourism, but current outdated practices are medically and environmentally dangerous. Tannery workers are not only exposed to unsanitary conditions associated with urinary tract infections, but also chromium, which is associated with cancer and other conditions. And as the last point, the 3 tanneries in Fes would improve the health of workers and surrounding populations as well as the state of the environment if they were to modernize their tanning techniques, which can be done without compromising the cultural integrity of this historic tanneries. Here are the references. Thank you.